exactly duplicate the methods of artists. The way to create something beautiful is often to make subtle tweaks to something that already exists, or to combine existing ideas in a slightly new way. You should figure out programs as you're writing them, just as writers and painters and architects do. Attention to detail further marks good hackers with artist-like passion. All those unseen details in a Leonardo da Vinci painting combine to produce something that's just stunning, like 1,000 barely audible voices all singing in tune. Great software, likewise, requires a fanatical devotion to beauty. If you look inside good software, you find that parts no one is ever supposed to see are beautiful too. This desire to equate art and programming has a lengthy pedigree. In 1972, the famed computer scientist Butler Lampson published an editorial titled Programmers as Authors that began, "Creative endeavor varies greatly in the amount of overhead, that is, money, manpower, and organization, associated with a project which calls for a given amount of creative work. At one extreme is the activity of an aircraft designer, at the other, that of a poet. The art of programming currently falls much closer to the former than the latter. I believe, however, that this situation is likely to change considerably in the next decade." Lampson's argument was that hardware would become so cheap that almost everyone who uses a pencil will use a computer, and that these users would be able to use reliable software components to put together complex programs. As a result, millions of people will write non-trivial programs, and hundreds of thousands will try to sell them. A poet, however, might wonder why Lampson would place poetry making on the same spectrum of complexity as aircraft design, how the two disciplines, besides being creative, are in any way similar. After all, if Lampson's intent is to point toward the future reduction of technological overhead and the democratization of programming, there are plenty of other technical and scientific fields in which the employment of pencil and paper by individuals might produce substantial results. Architecture, perhaps, or carpentry, or mathematics. One thinks of Einstein in the patent office at Bern. But even the title of Lampson's essay hints at a desire for kinship with writers, an identification that aligns what programmers and authors do, and makes them, somehow, eventually, the same. Both writers and programmers struggle with language. The code at the beginning of this chapter is in Microsoft's C#, one of thousands of high-level programming languages invented over the last century. Each of these is a formal language, a language with explicit and precise rules for its syntax and semantics, as the Oxford Dictionary of Computing puts it. Formal languages contrast with natural languages such as English, whose rules, evolving as they do with use, fall short of being either a complete or a precise definition of the syntax, much less the semantics of the language. So these formal dialects may be less flexible and less forgiving of ambiguity than natural languages, but coders, like poets, manipulate linguistic structures and tropes, search for expressivity and clarity. While a piece of code may pass instruction to a computer, its real audience, its readers, are the programmers, who will add features and remove bugs in the days and years after the code is first created. Donald Knuth is the author of the revered magnum opus on computer algorithms and data structures, The Art of Computer Programming. Volume 3 of The Art was published in 1973. The first part of Volume 4 appeared in 2011. The next part is under preparation. If ever there was a person who fluently spoke the native idiom of machines, it is Knuth, computing's great living sage. More than anyone else, he understands the paradox that programmers write code for other humans, not for machines. Let us change our traditional attitude to the construction of programs. Instead of imagining that our main task is to instruct a computer what to do, let us concentrate rather on explaining to human beings what we want a computer to do.